You should never get used to the smell of rotting corpses. It's bad for your health. They carry all sorts of diseases: typhoid, cholera, the plague, and even necrosick. They aren't a pretty sight, and by the riffs do they smell. And if you aren't fast enough, they'll take a nice big chunk out of you. Me? I'm used to the smell of rotting corpses. I spend a lot of time around them. They smell as you'd expect, but I got used to it pretty fast. What I never got used to were their sounds. Corpses never shut up. They're always moaning, groaning, growling, and howling. Sometimes they hiss like a cat, or gurgle like they're trying out some mouthwash. Trust me, they aren't. That's the thing about the undead, though. They've got patterns. They're consistent. You find out what type of necrospecies or whatchamacallit they are, and then you can understand a lot about them. If they walk upright, have misty eyes, smell like year-old meat, walk slowly and won't stop groaning, then it's probably a zombie on your hands. If they are hunched, have fangs, blackened skin like ash, and red eyes, they're a ghoul. And if they're running around on all fours, covered in debris, quills, and scabs, then you're probably not fast enough to run away, 'cause then you've got a ghoul. I am definitely not fast enough to outrun a ghoul. Lucky for me, I'm not trying to. Also lucky for me, this ghoul was as noisy as any other corpse I've faced in my short career, making it easy to find. This was one of the gurgle hiss variety. It was spitting up a storm, hissing, gurgling, and banging its fists on the ground like an angry gorilla. From my hiding spot on the floor above it, I could see the cause of its frustration: a padlocked meat locker. The ghoul's grotesque elongated fingers were flayed, smearing black-red blood on the already dirty locker. I shook my head. The monster was hungry. That's a stupid thing to think. The undead were always hungry. Except for skeletons, of course. They were content, most of the time. But this ghoul was particularly hungry. It had been working all night at this locker full of rotting meat to no avail. Only a few scratches and black-red bloodstains on the yellowed-white exterior to show for its troubles. Probably just got out of a rift, the voice in my head said. I didn't respond. I was the only one who could hear the voice, but it could only hear me if I spoke aloud. That was not the most prudent thing to do under the circumstances. They're very antsy when they just arrive, Kat, the voice continued. Be careful. And they're also very groggy and not used to a human who can defend herself, I wanted to say. Instead, I remained quiet. I had done this before. Plenty of times before. Avoid the quills. Avoid the claws. Avoid the teeth. Slice a tendon on its back leg to incapacitate it. End it with a clean beheading or stab through the skull. Ghouls had weak bones, byproduct of the stretching and deformations. Yeah, I had done this plenty of times before. I knew the patterns. I had my own. The undead never survived long enough to learn mine. But despite all the times I'd done this before, my heart still beat like a war drum. You can do this, Kat, I told myself. My short sword's blades caught some light from the street. The steel glinted in the musty dark. They were new blades, slightly curved, stainless steel, cheap. I hoped they would last. I took a deep breath. The ghoul had mounted the meat locker and was trying to pull the door off. From the hole in the floor of this dilapidated apartment building, I had a clear drop to the ghoul's neck. A clean stab, a clean plunge. I nodded, as if I had just won an argument with myself. And then I jumped.